50-50 podcast. English section starts at 3606.
Okay, so back with Q. How you doing, man?
Good, man.
Hey,
How you?
Bahasa Indonesia.
Yeah.
So kali ini
What's up?
gue ajak Q karena kita mau bahas kasus yang trending baru-baru ini, atau mungkin udah nggak baru lagi. Cuman
Kayaknya masih ada orang yang ngebahas dikit, tapi kayak udah, I don't know.
karena dia udah gak ada.
Iya udah nggak ada. Mungkin di sana ya. Karena sempat masuk ke banyak ke channel-channel atau berita internasional juga kan, dibahas di luar sana kan.
So kita bahas Crystal Gray?
Kristen Gray. There is a Kristen and there is a Kristen.
Okay.
So Miss KG or Mrs. K. I don't know, whatever.
So kasus sebenarnya ada yang tanya aku di Instagram story aku. Gue. Ada yang tanya gue tentang di Instagram story gue tentang kasus itu dan apa opini aku gue tentang itu. Tapi ya gue pernah dengar dikit dari beda orang, tapi kurang tahu. Sekarang gue gak terlalu pakai Twitter, itu lebih besar di Twitter ya. So biar semua orang yang dengar dan aku ada on the same page, apa bahasa Indonesia,
di halaman yang sama. Kita punya persepsi yang sama, pengertian yang sama.
Gue mau kasih tahu gue tentang kasus itu dari awal. Apa yang lo tahu karena pasti lo nggak tahu each and every detail.
Iya, ya sama sih sebenarnya. Kalau gue pribadi, kalau masuk ke Twitter juga lebih ke mencari informasi cepat aja, terlepas dari benar atau salah. Gue masih cukup, bahasanya apa ya, aktif tapi sangat pasif. Gue memang di sosmed itu pasif. Gue selalu buka, yes, ya. Jadi lebih ke it sounds better in English, a silent reader. I'm not gonna translate. Anyways,
you lurk.
Yeah, I lurk. Apalagi di Twitter, maksudnya karena text based, gue banyak mencari informasi. Tapi pada saat yang sama juga, karena orang-orang yang gue follow kan kadang-kadang emang antara gue dapat beritanya langsung, tergantung siapa yang gue follow. Karena gue tidak banyak follow media, atau gue subjek-subjek atau topik yang gue suka nge-follow itu lebih ke olahraga, tech, games, hal-hal kayak gitu kan. Tapi orang yang gue follow justru yang mereka yang ngebahas, ya kan. Tiba-tiba suatu hari muncul soal si kejadian ini, tanpa gue terlalu mendalami, dan mungkin itu juga bisa dibilang kekurangannya. Tapi apa yang gue paham dari hal ini adalah ada seorang orang asing awalnya berlibur ke Bali, ya kan. Di mana itu hak dia, selama memang kita boleh libur segala macam. Dia ada di Bali. Alasan dia kabur dari Amerika sana dengan segala kondisi yang di sana untuk dia libur dan ngambil break segala macam di Bali kan. Nah, yang jadi isunya atau jadi masalahnya sama netizen di sini, dan sebenarnya nggak salah juga, adalah dia datang ke Bali, datang ke Indonesia awalnya berlibur, tapi sampai akhirnya dia bikin buku, e-book gitu kan. Dia jualan, dia juga menjadi seorang digital nomad gitu kan, karena kerjaan dia sebenarnya cuma butuh wifi doang, cuma butuh internet. Tapi yang bikin orang agak gimana, dan gue pun bisa mengerti hal itu, adalah datang ke Bali tapi juga mengajak orang lain datang ke Bali. Jadi kayak, guys, lo pengen tempat yang murah, lo pengen tempat yang asik, lo pengen ini segala macam, lo datanglah ke Bali. Ini gue ngasih tahu caranya lo bisa datang ke Bali. Gue juga kasih tahu caranya lo bisa dapetin visa yang sebenarnya itu pada dasarnya menurut gue tidak salah. Oke? Kenapa? Karena banyak orang Indonesia melakukan hal yang sama. Oke? guys, lo pengen ke Tokyo, lo pengen ke Jepang, ya Tokyo ada di Jepang, lo pengen pergi kemana, lo pengen ke ini ya dokumen yang lo harus siapin, ini ya tempat-tempat, itu menurut gue masih wajar. Tapi ini kan yang sangat, yang akhirnya menjadi isunya kalau akhirnya diselidiki lagi adalah, ini kan sama pandemi juga, ya kan? Ini sama pandemi, terus akhirnya mulai ngebahas soal privilege, gentrification, isu-isu yang akhirnya menjadi sub-isu dari, sebenarnya intinya, if it was any other year, kalau misalnya emang di hari-hari biasa, maksudnya nggak ada pandemi, sebenarnya nggak ada salahnya menurut gue ya, kita melakukan hal itu kalau kita mau melakukan sebuah, ya kecuali lo menjadi seorang traveler yang, yaudah deh gue langsung beli tiket, bodo amat, gue nanti belajarnya. Tapi kan ada orang juga pengen ada persiapan lah sebelum dia pergi, sebelum dia jalan-jalan kan. Pada dasarnya di situnya menurut gue tidak salah. Maksudnya kayak yaudah, gue sering kok teman-teman gue yang di sono, kalau gue mau ke Indonesia gue harus kemana? Gue kasih tahu. Terus lo siapin ini, dan gue mau dong teman-teman gue datang ke Indonesia, belajar tentang ini loh, gue ini sounds, ini akar gue, ini these are my roots, this is where sorry about that, this is where I'm from, this is where I'm from, you know. Jadi kayak bagian itunya menurut gue nggak terlalu salah, tapi akhirnya mengajak orang lebih ke kayak ini tempat yang murah, dan sebenarnya nggak salah for them, untuk mereka itu murah, ya kan. Gue inget kok waktu gue baru balik dari sono, gue bawa dolar, shit man, gila murah banget, right? Gue menikmati hal itu, gue maksudnya munafik banget kalau gue enggak. Cuman akhirnya menjadi besar, dan disitulah gue juga setuju bahwa bentar dulu, ini lagi pandemi, banyak isu-isu akhirnya yang muncul, sehingga dia jadi viral gitu. Sampai masalah LGBT-nya dibahas, sampai rasisme juga dibahas, aturan imigrasi, aturan pajak, ya kan. Lucunya, ya namanya juga netizen ya, kadang-kadang mereka terlalu cepat untuk pulling the trigger aja gitu, atau ngambil kesimpulan. Awalnya, again, gua nggak sekepo itu, ya mungkin gue juga salah, tapi yang gue nangkep adalah awalnya diserang karena dia overstay, sehingga kayak lo udah kelamaan di sini, berarti lo illegal kan, lo illegal di Indonesia, terus lo juga dapat uang segala macam. Nah ini udah mulai isu-isunya agak lumayan rumit, karena yang gue tahu juga bagian imigrasinya bilang bahwa sebenarnya dia udah perpanjang visanya. Jadi, nah, kapan dia perpanjang gue nggak tahu, dan gue nggak bilang gue bener-bener, again, gue sedetail itu sama si kasusnya kan. Keduanya adalah masalah pajak. Nah ini kan sebuah isu yang namanya digital nomad gitu. Again, gue nggak terlalu tahu aturannya, tapi mereka juga bentar dulu, lo udah datang ke Indonesia, lo kerja di sini. Again, gue nggak tahu, karena yang gue paham dia kan desain grafis yang dia sempat buka konsultasi kayak gitu, itu juga rumit. Contohnya lo sendiri, lo kerja di sini, yang gue tahu lo bayar pajaknya 2 kan, buat ke Indonesia sama buat ke Amerika. Nah, dia sempat ada statement bahwa bentar, gue nggak menghasilkan rupiah, kenapa gue harus bayar pajak Indonesia? Nah, again, ini hal-hal yang gue nggak ngerti sebenarnya secara detailnya seperti apa, karena ya lo cukup butuh at least punya teman pengacara atau apalah yang ngerti hukumnya kan. Cuman hal-hal kayak gini dalam kasus pandemi dia mengajak, jadi kayak langsung jadi viral aja sih. Itu yang gue nangkep, dan lumayan.
Terus so di awal kayak masih bingung apa yang orang pikir salahnya dia adalah visa atau tax yang mungkin itu bukan yang salah, it's a little bit tricky ya. Mungkin emang visanya di extend atau diperpanjang, or ya mungkin pajak dia nggak usah dibayar di Indonesia, siapa tahu. But di mana mulai contoh rasnya, ada masalah tentang rasisme.
Nah, again, ini yang gue baca. Maksudnya, gue nggak sekepo itu karena menurut gue, ya gue punya hal-hal lain lah yang gue pengen pelajarin dan apa segala macam. Bukan berarti gue tidak apa ya? Bukan berarti gue juga nggak merasa itu hal yang salah ya. Cuman kayak I have other things that I need to pay attention about. Anyway, dia kan akhirnya ngehapus tweet-tweet dia juga. Again, netizennya di sini mulai kayak ngebahas itu yang tadi yang kita ngebahas kan. Tapi yang gue tahu mulai muncul masalah si rasisme dan orang lain. Gue nggak tahu apakah dia juga sempat. Tapi di sini kan muncul perbedaan culture dan perbedaan lebih tepatnya mungkin ke bahasa. Salah satu hal yang gue nangkep, yang gue ngeliat sendiri. Again, gue nggak terlalu fact check, ya mungkin gue juga salah, tapi yang gue nangkep adalah gini, bahasa Indonesia untuk bahasa yang formal atau bahasa yang resmi, I don't know, untuk bilang no adalah
tidak.
Oke. Ketika disingkat dan menjadi tidak resmi adalah
enggak.
Oke, enggak.
Tak.
Kalau di Jakarta kagak ya,
Kagak.
Oke. Tapi secara universalnya adalah dari tidak menjadi enggak. How would you spell that? Kalau mau mengeja enggak,
bisa jadi GAK atau bisa di NGGA.
Nah, yang gue nangkep ada beberapa mulai orang ngebahas masalah si rasismenya adalah wah, orang Indonesia ini rasis banget karena mereka menggunakan kata N. Yang muncul itu adalah statement entah dari dia atau pihak dia, orang Indonesia bilang no dengan huruf caps lock NGA atau NGGA atau ya lo mau sekesel apa NGGA ya orang kan hihihi HE-nya kan jadi banyak kan. Orang sononya atau yang ngebela dianya merasa wah, orang Indonesia rasis banget.
Karena mereka pikir itu NIGGA gitu.
Yes. Ayo. Padahal mereka tidak, ya sama, segimananya gue tidak nge-fact check semuanya untuk kasus hal ini, gue hanya tahu sebatas. Dan pun pendapat gue, opini gue masih bisa rubah. Gue selalu akan berusaha merubah opini gue ketika memang gue dikasih sebuah sumber yang cukup kredibel, gue baca, oke, I'm more informed, gue bisa menyimpulkan sebuah opini. Tapi ketika secepat itu, ya, bahwa susah kalau dalam bahasa Indonesia, tapi semuanya serba lo gitu. Padahal kayak men di luar sono, di luar Amerika, di luar ini segala macam banyak budaya dan banyak bahasa lainnya. Mungkin akan beda kalau negara Asia lainnya di mana ada huruf-huruf non Romawi, non apa misalnya di Thailand, ABCD, ya kan. Tapi ya orang Indonesia walaupun ada bahasa, ada kan jam. Not gonna get into that.
Yeah, tapi gak ada yang pakai.
Nggak ada yang pakai secara apa sehari-hari gitu ya. Orang Indonesia menggunakan huruf Romawi untuk menulis dan ngobrol dalam bahasa Indonesia. Pun ada singkatan-singkatan sama dengan bahasa Inggris. Tanpa hanya orang yang biasanya ngomong pakai bahasa Inggris akan ngerti singkatan W garis miring terus langsung out.
Without, yeah.
Ya kan, itu menjadi without. Atau banyaklah singkatan-singkatan lainnya. Sama dengan bahasa Indonesia gitu. Tapi balik lagi ke mulai ada ngebahas rasismenya segala macam itu adalah yang gue nangkep ada beberapa orang, karena ada beberapa orang ngebahas hal itu adalah ketika orang Indonesia bilang enggak, no, you're wrong atau apalah gitu. Tapi tulisannya adalah NGGA atau NGGAK. Kenapa harus diasumsikan itu? Nah, menurut gue disitulah adalah persepsi salahnya atau komunikasi miscommunication-nya, salah komunikasi. Ya itulah.
Cukup kita bilang miskom ya.
Ya miskom.
Semua Indo tahu.
Gue jadi kenapa gue jadi ngobrol sama lo jadi aneh gue.
Tapi so termasuk LGBT.
Iya.
So dia LGBT sendiri, I guess ya kan.
Ya.
Terus setahu gue dia katakan bahwa di Bali atau di Indonesia apa?
Di Bali
di
kan?
sini.
Di sini di Indonesia I think dia kayaknya dia menggunakan kata yang lebih general di sini di Indonesia sangat LGBTQ friendly kayak
gini. Kita nggak usah bilang apapun. Udah cukup semuanya tahu. Wait a second. At least statement itu nggak sesimple itu bisa dibilang. Nggak berarti it's not friendly. No, itu bukan. Maksudnya, but statement itu yang dia bikin is not correct.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more nuanced.
Oh yeah.
Apa bahasa Indonesianya?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get into it. Whatever. Fuck it. Gua nggak peduli ya. Gua dibesarin sama keluarga yang cukup open minded, yang nggak pedulin agama lo apa, ras lo apa, sexual preference lo apa, nggak peduli. Dan gue juga nggak peduli gitu. Tapi gue juga bukan orang pemerintahan. Gue bukan gue yang bikin aturan ini. Bahwa dia bikin statement itu aja udah sebuah informasi salah yang dia bilang ke teman-temannya. Negara Indonesia sama kayak negara Asia Tenggara lainnya, memang menurut gua cukup terbuka untuk hal itu. Tapi secara hukumnya enggak. Nah, lo jangan salahin gue. Dan lo juga jangan jangankan Indonesia, Singapura aja yang gua tahu memang itu menjadi it's a criminal act. Ya kan? Untuk negara yang berkembang Singapura. Ya kan? Maksudnya Singapura aja anggap itu bahwa itu sebuah criminal act. Yeah. Indonesia apalagi gitu. Terus menurut lo Q itu salah? Again, secara pribadi menurut gue salah. I don't believe in that. Tapi bahwa lo bilang ke teman-teman lo, ya mungkin di Bali akan beda cerita, ya kan? Mungkin bahasanya bukan nggak hanya friendly, tapi kalau mungkin secara secara general pun di Jakarta juga agak sama. Just look the other way. Gue nggak tahu bahasa Indonesianya apa, but looking the other way cuek aja kayak yaudah itu urusan mereka gitu. Sebagian orang, gue bilang sebagian karena ingat ada 260 juta sekian orang di Indonesia. Sebagian orang merasa, dan gue juga salah satu orang yang seperti itu. I don't care. Tapi bahwa nggak ada hukumnya di belakang hal itu, that's a big. Itu yang salah. No, enggak, itu enggak benar gitu. Dan itu menjadi sebuah sub topik yang beda lagi ya. Itu menjadi salah. Yang gua tahu pun imigrasi mencantumkan itu sebagai hal pertama. Apakah itu sengaja atau enggak, again gua nggak terlalu ngerti. Dan yang gua tahu akhirnya itu pun menjadi counter statementnya dari dia bahwa gue dideportase gara-gara hal itu. Dan memang dari surat imigrasinya atau dari ininya bilang bahwa memang itu menjadi isu karena lo sudah membuat civil unrest di Indonesianya. Again, itu bukan urusan gue, tapi bahwa akhirnya inti permasalahannya udah ada sebagian dari inti permasalahan udah hilang, kayak udah mulai ngebahas ke hal-hal lain. Padahal kalau ingat yang dulu banyak banget orang yang di Bali, banyak yang datang dari Eropa, datang dari mana untuk bikin semacam liburan atau belajar yoga lah atau apalah, illuminating themselves. Whatever, you do you. Mereka bikin banyak di Bali dan banyak yang deportasi juga untuk hal itu. Kasusnya ini mungkin sedikit berbeda karena kebetulan dia emang seorang bagian dari LGBTQ-nya. Tapi Meskipun yang gue tahu, again, netizen Indonesia tidak menyerang hal itu. Mereka cuma bilang, ada bule di Bali, enak banget lo datang ke sini, ya kan? Lo datang ke Indonesia lagi pandemi, lo enak banget, apalagi lo overstay. Ternyata imigrasi kan meluruskan hal itu, enggak dia perpanjang. Lo overstay, lo juga ambil keuntungan pada saat pandemi di Indonesia. Justru itu yang awalnya yang dibahas.
Oke, dan gue setuju dengan itu. Nah, kadang-kadang gue lihat ada yang suka kayak marah sampai asumsi semua boleh gitu datang ke Indonesia untuk ambil benefit gitu. And it's like,
lo salah satunya sih, lo gila sih, lo datang ke Indonesia ya, kurang ajar lo.
Ya, bercanda kan. So, but I think they take it too far.
Totally not being sarcastic. Terus. Nah,
mereka terlalu jauh dengan itu, karena ada satu imigrasi itu situasi di US itu satu isu yang besar banget di US ya kan. Dan
Amerika dan di Eropa.
Dan di sini juga bisa. Kenapa? Karena di sini ada banyak banget masyarakat ya kan. So gue ngerti. Di sini beda dengan Thailand, Philippines, walaupun mereka agak besar juga, nggak sebesar di sini populasi ya penduduk. So sebenarnya kalau orang asing mau datang ke sini, kalau bukan yang kaya banget ya, mereka selalu ada banyak loophole. But loophole buat yang nggak ngerti nanti cari di Google ya. Mereka ada caranya karena mereka ada uang. Tapi buat like orang asing yang whatever middle class atau ke bawah agak susah sebenarnya di Indonesia. Harus ada visa, harus ada, dan ada banyak kayak restrictions. Tapi gue ngerti kenapa ada itu. Itu penting karena di Indonesia ada banyak masyarakat yang butuh kerja juga. Dan buat apa kasih ke orang asing sebelum ke penduduk diri sendiri ya. So gue setuju dengan itu. Di Thailand gak gitu, ya udah mereka punya beda sistem imigrasi. Oke, itu mereka. Karena di sana gue tahu di Filipina definitely ada kayak 7 tahun atau 10 tahun visa yang bisa dapat. Di sini gak ada gitu. Harus diperpanjangkan terus. Dan gue gak salahin. So gue setuju dengan itu. Bukan sampai benci orang asing datang ke sini. Ada banyak yang datang secara legal, punya visa, bayar tax. Ada yang kasih sesuatu buat masyarakat kayak ngajar bahasa Inggris gratis online. Okay, siapa tahu who's that? I don't know, dude. But balik lagi, gue bisa bilang, nah, yang nonton ini pasti bukan orang Amerika dan lo bukan Amerika, tapi gue bisa marahin, ya kita peduli tentang itu juga. Itu alasannya imigrasi jadi isu besar di US. Gak berarti imigran gak boleh datang, cuman datang secara yang legal. Kalau di sini kita bisa ngerti, kenapa di sana gak bisa dimengerti itu?
Itu memang susah karena apa ya, that's gonna take it. Tapi sama maksudnya gini, isunya akhirnya menjadi banyak subtopik dalam arti gini, banyak banget orang luar sana juga, orang asing datang, dan mereka kan itu nggak cuma di Indonesia. Selama gue juga traveling karena kerjaan, gue ke Hong Kong, gue ke Korea, ke Malaysia, banyak juga orang asing. Lucunya, orang asing itu bukan berarti yang kulit putih ya. Kita datang ke Malaysia aja orang asing, right? Lo bukan citizen atau warga negara, lo orang asing gitu. Orang asing ini emang suka ada itu panhandling, minta uang untuk, hey bantu gue untuk jalan-jalan. Kayak nyet. Yang bikin orang Indonesia sakit hati juga adalah, bentar, gue mau ke Amerika aja, restrictionnya gila. Sedangkan lo bisa segampang itu, lo datang ke sini, terus lo menganggap aturan kita itu, nah, again, gue juga setuju sama sentimen lo, cuman ini kan dua arah, lo nggak bisa, ini baik buat orang Indonesia atau baik buat orang sana juga. gimana ya, susah gitu. Lo nggak bisa bilang bahwa hey, lo harus menghargai aturan kita, tapi kita pun akhirnya komplain soal aturan di sananya. Itu mau gimana gitu. Gue masih ada perasaan itu bahwa yes, memang datang terlepas dari apa yang terjadi di Amerika belakangan ini, tapi pada dasarnya susah untuk lo dapat visa ke Amerika, susah lo dapat visa ke UK atau di Eropa dan lain-lain kan, lebih susah dibanding sama orang asing datang ke sini. Cuman gue agak gimana juga ketika lo nggak tahu apakah si bule orang asing datang ke sini secara legal, tapi lo langsung ada perasaan kayak enak banget lo, kayak gimana ya, kayak
emang. Gue setuju, gue ngerti. Tapi itu kayak hey, itu gak adil. Nah, itu ungkapan, hey, itu nggak adil. Itu ungkapan yang dangerous, yang berbahaya. Alasannya karena itu bisa bikin orang radikal. Hey, itu gak adil. Dunia gak adil. Okay? Bukan gue lagi mau, it's okay to do that. No. Gini, daripada, hey, itu gak adil. Lebih ke, hey, itu gak adil. Okay, sabar dulu. Kita mikir gimana caranya ini bisa dibikin adil. Gitu. Karena contoh di US juga itu bisa bikin orang kayak like white people sering di-attack tentang rasisme dan gini. Bisa ada salah satu orang kulit putih, dia nggak pernah melakukan apapun, kenapa dia harus terus orang itu lebih gampang bisa diradikalisasikan, dibikin radikal. And mungkin itu bikin dia jadi rasis. So, ini cuma satu contoh yang gue kasih biar like, karena gue selalu bilang open minded, let's be open minded, kita sabar aja, jangan terlalu cepat marah, ya.
Ambil kesimpulan. Iya,
terlalu cepat ambil kesimpulan, jangan. Karena gue lihat di online itu sering terjadi, mungkin kasus ini dengan cewek itu kayak lo bilang contoh, ini satu contoh lah yang tentang NGGA. Mereka salah ngerti, pikir itu NIGGA. Bayangkan kalau mereka nggak salah asumsi itu, kalau ada satu orang di internet yang kayak troll, yang mau adu dombain, dia gampang banget bisa bilang ke orang di sana, hey, kamu tahu nggak dia panggil kamu ini? Oh my God, terus bikin dia marah. You know what I mean? Kita society, kita masyarakat dunia di bumi, gak ngerti buat apa kita suka debat online when we know it doesn't work. Salah banget cara kita debat online. Gampang banget, kadang-kadang lo bisa lagi debat sama bot, sama robot. Itu bukan account asli. Atau lo pikir lo lagi debat sama masyarakat satu sama lain, ternyata itu hacker di negara lain. You know what I mean? Like, lebih sabar, lebih calm, and karena kalau terlalu cepat emosi gitu, itu bisa bikin situasi jauh lebih buruk.
Dan itu nggak cuma untuk masalah imigrasi, tapi masalah rasisme.
Di sini dengan kontroversi yang sering ada online, seleb ini, seleb itu.
Sama untuk rasisme dan itu maksudnya gue lebih posisi gue adalah gini. Gue dulu dibesarin di sana, gue sekarang tinggal di sini dan gue emang orang sini. Gue bisa melihat dari dua sisi itu, bahwa gue sangat mengerti. Gue juga kesel dong. Maksudnya ada sisi keselnya kayak, bentar, kalau lo juga salah datang ke sini, itu salah. Gue bisa sangat melihat, apalagi akhirnya kan ya itu mulai ke topik gentrifikasi lah atau apa gitu segala macam. Bukan berarti gue nggak kesel juga, tapi it goes both ways. Kayak gue juga bisa ngeliat sisi dari sananya juga, kayak bentar, gue nggak boleh datang ke Indonesia. Boleh banget, tapi bentar dulu lihat kondisi.
Situasi cewek itu buruk buat gue. Karena gue datang, visa aku aman, gue aman. Terus itu bisa kayak mungkin bisa dibilang keluarga lo pas datang ke US, buat mereka bisa bilang, hey, kita datang secara yang legal. Kan, apalagi kalau jadi citizen, karena ini jadi my mom, dia orang Kuba yang menjadi orang Amerika secara legal. So kalau ada imigran bisa jadi dari negara dia, yang negara dulu, dia bisa kayak like marah sama mereka juga, like hey guys, jangan secara legal. Gue datang secara legal, like you're affecting me. Itu ada efek sama gue.
Nah, dari situ akhirnya muncul juga masalah asimilasi. Apakah lo juga bisa? Nah, ini kan sebuah topik yang nggak cuma di Indonesia, tapi juga di Amerika, juga di Eropa, di seluruh dunia lah masalah.
Aku mau masuk ke section bahasa Inggris, tapi kita kasih sedikit di sini di bahasa Indonesia tentang asimilasi dulu, and let that be the segue ya.
Oke. Asimilasi. Gimana caranya? Akhirnya yang gue paham adalah lo bisa, bahasa simpelnya, lo blend in dengan tempat yang lo tinggal, gitu. Jangan maksud gini, simpelnya gitu, lo aja udah asimilasi, lo bayar pajak, lo datang ke sini secara legal, bahkan sekarang podcast ini kan setengah jamnya dalam bahasa Indonesia. Enaknya dengan lo belajar bahasa adalah lo mau nggak mau lo belajar tentang budaya dari negara tersebut. Ya lo belajar bahasa Mandarin, lo akan belajar secara tidak langsung kan. Banyaklah cara lo bisa belajar budaya. Salah satunya melalui si bahasanya sendiri gitu. Nah, yang menjadi isunya juga dan akhirnya di blow up, gua nggak kenal dia, gua nggak nongkrong sama dia tiap hari, tapi kan muncul subtopiknya masalah asimilasi. Apakah dia juga ada niat untuk assimilate atau berasimilasi dengan budaya di sininya, budaya di Balinya? Karena dia pengen tinggal di Balinya segala macam. Apakah dia belajar? Gua aja sebagai orang Indonesia, gua nggak terlalu paham budaya Bali juga, gitu. Gue juga rasa banyak orang Indonesia juga nggak terlalu saling paham tentang kan budaya itu budaya gitu. Tapi bukan berarti kita nggak mau belajar kan. Ketika gua sama teman-teman gua libur ke Bali, teman-teman sahabat gua ada di sononya, ya gua juga ngajarin apa yang gua tahu. Dan dia sangat pengen, justru dia yang, hayo Q, gue pengen belajar ini, pengen tahu ini, pengen lihat ini. Gak cuma sebagai tourist spot, tapi kayak, oh ini maksudnya apa ya? Apa yang gue ngerti, gue ngasih tahu. Apa yang gue ngerti, gue gak ngerti juga. Hayo kita nanya bareng lah, gitu. Ini bisa menjadi permasalahannya juga gitu, asimilasi. Apakah, jangankan dia guys, banyak banget orang asing yang gue kenal, yang gue tidak kenal, gue pernah kerja bareng, mereka juga nggak mau belajar bahasa Indonesia. Apakah kesel lah? Maksudnya lo udah tinggal di sini walaupun legal, tapi lo nggak mau assimilate. Tapi itu again, it goes both ways. Gua punya pendapat bahwa ketika lo datang ke negara yang bukan negara lo harus assimilate, gitu. Again, kalau kita ngebahas nyokap lo, orang tua gue juga sama. Kita datang ke Amerika, gue sampai SMA satu-satunya yang dari Indonesia, jelas gue, satu-satunya yang orang Muslim, gue. Masalah benar atau nggak Muslimnya, that's another story. Tapi maksud gue baru ketemu teman yang puasa juga bareng pas SMA. Tapi orang tua gue nggak pernah loh minta special treatment kayak, anak gue lagi puasa, minta tolong, enggak. Yaudah kita assimilate, kita tahu bahwa di Amerika mayoritas agamanya bukan itu. Bahkan di kota gua aja masjidnya cuma satu. Ya untung udah ada masjid satu gitu. Apakah gue pernah dengar azan? Nggak pernah. Jujur gue pertama kali gue dengar azan yang gue ingat waktu pas gue balik ke Indonesia. Dan jujur gue itu apa ya? Lo nggak pernah? Enggak ya. Di Amerika kita dikasih jadwal kayak kapan maghrib, kapan harus sholat segala macam. Itu kan ada jadwal. Gue nggak pernah loh gue denger azan di sononya seperti di sini. Tapi gue juga nggak teriak-teriak. Ya kita itu bukan budaya dan bukan agama mayoritasnya gitu. That's what Nah itu pun assimilation atau asimilasi sebuah subjek yang juga sejauh apa asimilasinya, sejauh apa itu. Tapi gara-gara kasus ini akhirnya itu semuanya rasisme, asimilasi, gentrifikasi. Padahal awalnya inti permasalahannya yang orang lebih keselnya adalah lo nggak legal di sini, pajak lo gimana? Apalagi di situasi sekarang bahwa lagi pandemi, Bali juga ada dampaknya karena nggak cuma Bali, di seluruh dunia lah. Ya, di Indonesia banyak usaha-usaha pada tutup, apalagi di Bali. Lucunya lucunya I'm not gonna get too into it, tapi lucunya juga muncul topik di Balinya sendiri di bawah. Bentar dulu, gue aja sebagai orang Indonesia, gue pernah ngerasain hal itu. Gue yakin juga Kemal pasti ngerasain hal itu. Lo jangan cuma diam doang di situ kayak cuek doang, nggak. Banyak orang Indonesia juga datang ke Bali, tapi nggak dianggap. I'm just gonna play devil's advocate karena itu juga sering dibahas. Bentar dulu, gue aja datang ke sana, tapi kenapa orang asing lebih deserve dibanding sama gue, diutamakan, diprioritaskan dibanding gue orang Indonesia datang ke sana. Itu jelas bukan jelas, apakah itu restriksi dari si tempatnya, dan juga apakah tempatnya itu adalah dimiliki oleh orang Indonesia atau dimiliki oleh orang asing, gue nggak ngerti. Tapi nah ini kan muncul hal-hal yang ketidakadilannya baik dari imigrasi, dan jadinya luas banget si topik ini sih, maksudnya wah, tapi bahwa hanya orang asing enggak, man, gila. Gue yakin banyak orang yang lagi nonton ini datang ke sebuah klub atau tempat sebuah kayak
kita tahu namanya yang mana,
ya kita tahu ya, yang kayaknya nggak dilayanin ya, atau nggak boleh masuk ya, cuma gara-gara kecuali lo kenal siapa dan lain-lain kan, cuman kayak gitu deh.
Oke. Kita stop di situ sebelum ucapin nama klub itu yang ada di jalan. Let's go to the English. So,
thank God.
Yeah.
It's a tough subject, man. It is. It's a tough subject, and I totally agree with your perspective that that's the thing. Now, whether or not that's my loss, or you can say that I'm misinformed or uninformed, or that's the thing with social media, is that that's where I get my news, but at the same time, I don't start gunning to have my opinion without, and that's the thing. A lot of these people, man, you can't even have a decent conversation. Right. It ends up being a debate, not a discussion.
We got to let people know what we're talking about for the people who didn't catch the first half in Indonesian. And let me be the one to give the summary of the case, because some people might not have heard it over there.
Right.
Because now it's my turn to be politically incorrect.
Right.
All right. So what we're talking about today... is a case that it did go viral all over the world. I guess, in the U.S. because she's American, I guess.
Right.
But it was a specific local case, right? A foreigner here in Indonesia and Bali doing some stuff. So some chick, and this is where I start getting politically incorrect, as I love it.
It is what it is, man.
That stuff. Anyway, so some chick came here, right? Some chick came here. She was in Bali. She's a digital nomad.
Right.
She was staying here for it's unknown how many times she either extended her visa or overstayed her visa. I don't know. She wasn't paying taxes. However, it's also quite unknown whether she needed to pay taxes because she's a digital nomad. So her income was coming from, which I think is an issue for every country still all around the world.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the US hasn't most figured out,
right?
Because they've had YouTubers the longest, I guess, or even Europe. But it seems to still be an issue worldwide.
Right.
They don't know how to tax things, you know,
in general,
for YouTubers and stuff like that. Whatever. So then she, I guess, started posting on Twitter, telling people back home, so in the US, about the good life here, how great it is to live in Bali. And so she turns out to be lesbian, I guess.
Yeah.
We lost audio.
Yeah, it's now.
Oh, I think it's just the micro, headphone now.
But yeah, I'm getting ear raped now on my left side.
So so then she started like inviting people to come.
Right.
So she's a lesbian, so which is fine with me. I don't care.
I don't give a fuck.
So she started saying that it was like LGBT friendly,
right?
Which in Bali it may be somewhat, but you can't say that about all of Indonesia. And it's not that it's not friendly, which we said in the Indonesian section. It's just it's not that simple.
Right.
It's more nuanced than that. So then, what else? And she was like trying to push people to come and do the same as what she did. Like, hey, this is a good idea. Everybody should come do it.
Come hit me up. I can help and consult on how you can get that visa and how you can come out to Indonesia. And so she was, you know, again, more power to her, right? If you have the means to travel to another country, that's cool. There's absolutely no issue about that. But then start coming all these kind of these subtopics related to the biggest issue of taxes, her being there legally or not. But then, you know, the subtopics of she is part of the LG, she is a lesbian. She came here with her partner, with her girlfriend. But then she started, that's what, you know, as what you say, she started asking all these people, you can come out to Indonesia and live this good life. I'm not gonna deny that good life. We all want that. And I could care less about your sexual preference or whatever you identify as. But then all these subtopics start coming out: gentrification, assimilation, and then pretty much a lot of the miscommunication between the Indonesians here and her and the people that were on her side or defending her or whatnot.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that it's not just her and the whole digital nomad thing.
There's a lot of other people in Bali doing that.
There's a lot of people doing that. That's another topic in itself, because we don't know the rules. We don't know what the policies and regulations are regarding that, specifically in Indonesia, right? But as a digital nomad, it's not just her as a vlogger, but if you work for a company that's digital based, if you work for a digital agency, that's what it is. You don't need a quote unquote, your office can be pretty much anywhere. As long as you have the internet, you're cool, right? And you know, the tools that you need to do your job, a laptop, a PC, whatever. But it started becoming that issue when she started inviting people during Corona.
Oh, right. There's that element of it. Sorry.
There's that element. That's what got people talking, because hold up, why are you telling people to come work and live this good life here? And that's where the subtopics of gentrification, assimilation. I'm not Balinese. I don't need to be Balinese to tell you that there's a lot of foreigners that do come out here and they don't do that, right? It goes both ways. There's a lot of foreigners that go to the US or they go to Europe and they don't assimilate.
There's a lot of foreigners here in Indonesia who don't want to go to Canggu because it's like being back home.
Right.
I'm one of them.
There you go.
When I go to Canggu, it kind of feels like I'm not in Indonesia.
Right.
And it may have there's some cool places in Canggu, so I'll go sometimes.
Right.
But and for other reasons, I might end up going there because it's a strategic location. But overall, I don't feel like I'm in Indonesia, and that makes me kind of feel a little like, oh man, this is kind of like, why did I feel like I'm in LA, you know?
Right.
And whatever it is, what it is. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, some of us come here, we want to assimilate, you know, and I think it would be another topic of discussion. How far is assimilation? That's the acceptable degree of assimilation.
Because on that, just to really gloss over it real quick, you know, when my boy came out here, he had never visited Indonesia, or Asia for that matter. It was his first time coming out to Asia. So we were in Indonesia for 2 weeks, you know what I mean? I've known the kid since second grade. That's my boy. I've known, one of my best friends. But he took that time, 2 weeks, to try to learn as much. Now, how far did he assimilate? Could he have a conversation in Indonesia?
Right.
Of course not.
Impossible.
It's impossible. I mean, you can't expect someone to just, you know what I mean? But he tried. And even before coming out to Indonesia, he was already exposed to Indonesian culture through my parents, through me, when we were in the States. You know what I mean? But, you know, does a foreigner that comes out 2 weeks and decide not to learn about the culture, it's shitty, but whatever. You're on vacation. You learn. You can learn as much as, you know what I mean. But
then you can throw in the typical stereotype of France, where French people don't want you speaking English. As far as I hear, I've never been there.
I think the older generation,
they don't want it. No, try to speak. And from what I hear, though, I don't blame them for that, because it's kind of like their perspective is, at least try.
Right.
You don't have to be fluent in French, but at least you try. Don't immediately start with that English.
And that's why.
And whatever.
And that's why anytime you see a foreigner or even a public figure, they speak a little bit of Indonesian. You hear a foreigner say "apa kabar" or "terima kasih," like, because that's all it is, right? I mean, it's such.
We should get into this part about the whole, like, Indonesians blaming other Indonesians for taking pictures with bules or something like that. What do they call it? Like, I don't know if we should get into this now, but
I don't. That's a weird subject, man.
It's a
I
whole
don't know.
nother,
That's a
and maybe it
whole
belongs
other
in the
thing.
Indonesian section.
Right. But no, I mean, going back, just again, that quick recap was she got deported, right? Whether, again, those are other subjects, but it wasn't just her. A lot of people got, but it didn't get the spotlight, compared to other cases. A lot of people went to Bali and held kind of like these seminars and these, whatever, you do you if that's what you want to do. But they got deported too, because hold on, like, you're not paying taxes for that. And you got to pay tax, again, from what I know. So it wasn't just her getting deported for shit like that.
And I would say that's different than digital nomad. You're putting on a yoga event in the country. Here, you're making money.
Papers, right. You're making money in the country. You got permit papers that you got to deal with.
That's not
local
a gray
administration.
area.
No. I mean, anytime you have an event, even a local event, and you're not, you have these, paperwork that you got to deal with. Mm-hmm. So people have been deported. But with her, with her case, it was a bit more unique because of everything that kind of entrailed with that. And that's where the complications and what people were calling her out originally for was, how long have you been here? Are you even here legally? Number two thing is about the work thing. And that's a complicated issue as well, because we don't know. I don't even know that shit. That's complicated.
Yeah. It's a gray area.
You working out here legally, I'm assuming that you probably don't know the fine details of that.
Yep.
From what you know, which is perfectly fine, is you're teaching anything that you do in Indonesia is legal. You pay taxes, you pay
double,
right? So you're making a ton of money, but you're also no. You're losing a lot of money. You're losing a shit ton too.
The U.S. is, I think, the only country in the world that still expects you to pay taxes in their country when you're making money in abroad.
Right.
And it was like, man.
All right.
Anyway,
but yeah, so it went from that, and then again, her telling people that you can live this good life. If that was her hustle, whatever. But the reason why I say whatever is because if that's what you're trying to do, I can't really. Everyone wants to make that money, man. Do you know what I mean? But again, a bit tone deaf, I think, from her end to say, come out to Indonesia because it's cheaper to live out here. You can live this good life during a pandemic.
The tourism board should hire her. Wonderful Indonesia by Kristen Gray.
Right.
Whatever her name is.
So it went to that. And then it is Wonderful Indonesia, from what I know. It went to that. And then, the law of her getting deported. And then it just became bigger. And then because of the culture difference, the language difference, then it just exploded from that point on. The unique thing about it, though, is that the immigration people that we talked about it in the Indonesian part was that they made that their first point, the LGBT thing. Coincidentally, to all the English-speaking people, from what we know, again, what Dennis and I know, is that the reason people were going after her in the first place wasn't because of that. Wasn't because of her race. Wasn't because of her sexuality. It was because, wait, how are you making this money? How are you visiting Indonesia and being like, are you legal here? Now, whether or not that's their business, that's another.
It could have been. So we weren't in the loop from the beginning.
No.
It could have been. Yeah, it could have been like, man, let's get this chick. It could have been that. It could have been they're trying to they're being whatever. But let's look at it from the positive perspective. It could have been that the first people were responding saying like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing that during a pandemic.
Right.
Which is, I think, a fair point. And then maybe she defended herself and dug herself a deeper hole.
Yeah.
And then it snowballed from there. I can imagine that could have been how it went.
It could, yeah, no. And that's the thing. This discussion is and the topic is just so complicated because I wasn't there from the beginning. I don't claim that I know every aspect of it. But what I am trying to say, and I don't know if I was able to say that in the Indonesian part, is that I'm totally in the middle. I can understand her perspective, but I totally get why people are just as me, why I got a little bit aggravated because of her. Like, hold on, how are you here during the pandemic? it's a different discussion. Whether you believe in the pandemic or not, whether you believe, that's another situation in itself. But how are you able to be here during all this, making all that? Those are questions. Now, you know, some people were more into it, into the whole discussion. They really went after her.
Yeah. Let's take a break.
All right, cool.
And Kamal brought up a good point. You know, we took a break during the Adzan, right? And I think that's what we talk about when we talk about either assimilation or respecting the local culture.
Right.
And I guess from my perspective, so like, okay, I'm American. I was born there. Mm-hmm. My parents weren't. My parents are immigrants. So I sometimes, because I'm over the years, I've become more and more proud of being American.
Right.
Because I grew up in an era when I think we were force-fed why not to be proud of America.
Okay. And
all those reasons exist. I'm not saying they don't. More than just like the history of racism, slavery, more than just that. Heck, you can go into like conspiracy theory territory, like things that, you know, not even theory, conspiracies that occurred. Because like, you know, what, Vietnam, Gulf of Tonkin, that's true, right? We know about that. So a lot of things that the U.S. did to other countries or whatever.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that that's not true or that we should be proud of that. No, of course not. But there was something that happened, I think, is we weren't told about all the good things that we did have, the good things that being American that exist, right? Which the current, you know, political climate, I mean, has a habit of not wanting to admit to anything good that America has, right? And that kind of makes me angry. And I'm like, yo, the whole world wants to move to the U.S. Like mostly, not every country, but like especially countries where they're not doing very well off. The place they want to go is the U.S. Actually, a lot of times in countries that are first world countries, they do also want to move to the U.S. People like Elon Musk, because they get a chance to, their business has a way better chance of doing what he's doing now there than in other countries where there's more regulations. And so on this subject, like I've been learning to be more, you know, hey, I can be proud to be an American. That's an okay thing. Yeah. And that's something, that's the kind of assimilation that I think Americans expected of their citizens, and what we talk about maybe people should be doing here when they come here. Something I've thought about though is like when is enough? How much assimilation is enough?
And that again, that's there isn't a metric. I don't think there is a metric, right? I think there's, to be honest, I've talked to other foreigners, and you know, I remember this one time, right, getting some food in Kamang, and the dude was struggling with his order, so I just topped out. The person that was serving him didn't speak English, and who cares? She's not in an English speaking country. Do you know what I mean?
She doesn't have to. Here, yeah.
Would that be more beneficial? Definitely, but she doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so he was struggling, and then we were just shooting the shit. And I asked him, well, how long you been here? He's like, 10 years. I'm like, holy fuck, you've been here for 10 years and you can't speak one. So
you can't order, which is kind of the most easiest thing to learn.
And so I got pissed off. Now, going back to my thing, it does sound a bit like, I don't know what the metric is. Right? But bro, if you can't, you've been here for 10 years and he's getting agitated at her. That's what pissed me off.
He was getting
agitated. Like, hold on. And I told him, I was like, yo, she doesn't have to learn how to speak English. You've been here for 10 years.
If anything, she should be agitated with him.
Right. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, again, I think my last train of thought before we took that short break was, you know, they were attacking her for things that, you know, they didn't know, right? But the main subjects were about the tax, about overstay, about inviting people during this pandemic, about the money issue and all that stuff, which, to be honest, those are valid questions, right? When you see now, considering the current climate and the situation, more so people, and especially with social media, people will attack attack, or people will start asking questions and whatnot, especially now with the current situation. Now, going back to the whole assimilation, and then, you have subjects of, or topics of gentrification as well. People out there, not just in Bali, everywhere, right? Everywhere across the world, but more so that if we're going back to Bali, a lot of businesses close. A lot of the money that they made or make is from tourism, right? So it became a sensitive subject, as it should be. But those are tough subjects. And going back to the whole assimilation thing, there isn't a metric. Who's to say? Again, I don't know her. I didn't hang out with her. I don't know any of the people that she hangs out with. I don't know any of the local people that were there with her during her stay in Bali. I don't know whether she did try to assimilate or not, right? Who's to say that, well, she's only been here for a couple of months. Who's to say that she didn't have plans to do something as what you're doing now? You came to Indonesia with your objective, and you know what? I want to help people as well learn English, and by doing that, you learned how to speak Indonesian to help people speak English, not just to be, totally be speaking English and trying to teach English without learning how to speak Indonesian. I had that teacher. Bro, teacher was Indonesian, and he was teaching me how to speak Indonesian, which is totally cool, but he kept on speaking Indonesian. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, it was so frustrating. Anyways, but that is a good question. How long, right?
Yeah.
I don't, but that's tough. That's tough.
Probably has no answer.
It has,
because like what I was thinking was in the perspective of like recently when I've started to be accepting, like, hey, it's okay to be American. It's okay. It's good to be proud to be American. Yeah. Because I always grew up calling myself like Cuban American, something like that, right? Not even Latino American, more specific.
You got the hyphen,
right? But there's no need to do that. I'm American, right. And though at what point is it okay for me to still be proud of the Cuban culture that I grew up with? I can't say Cuban roots. I wasn't born there. I think it's still okay to be happy of. We've had conversations about this before. Proud of whatever the food from my. I can't even say my country. My country's the U.S. Right. My mother's country. I think it's okay to be proud of it and accept. Here's the thing. Like when I was young, I always dreamed of going to Cuba, and kind of like it felt there was this concept of like visiting the homeland, right? Right. Which I wasn't actually born there. I'm in my homeland when I'm in the U.S. Right. I'm in my homeland, so I still do want to go there, but something has also kind of grown in me because something I tell my mom about, like, I really want to go to Cuba one day, and she would tell me, why don't go? And I was like, why would my own mother who's from Cuba say that? And I realized it was because, well, she doesn't support the communism, right? And so to her it was like, when you're going there, you're bringing money into that country, you're supporting that, and that's what she left, that's what her family left. So then as I got older, I started to understand that, and I was like, oh wow. Right. So
no, I get that. Going back to how my parents raised me, dude, we celebrated everything in the States because they wanted to assimilate. And I think, I give props and shout outs to my parents because they knew that we were going to be in the States for the long run. You know what I mean? It wasn't just going to be for a year or two. You know what I mean? So they learned, I miss Thanksgiving dinner. Do you know what I mean? Again, regardless of the history behind it and all that, but just to assimilate and be part of that, whether the culture is right, whether Thanksgiving is right, because there are subjects on that. I'm not going to get into that. But, Thanksgiving, my mom on Christmas, we didn't celebrate Christmas, but, my mom made dinner for that. Do you know what I mean? She cooked a turkey and had, a meal specific for that. But she always told me, she's like, we don't celebrate Christmas, but we can be a part of it because that's what it is out in the US. Anytime I talk to even till now, I rarely talk to my parents in Indonesian. Like, sometimes they do because they've lost a little bit, just because they don't talk about it or they don't use English as much. But dude, when we were in the States, my parents raised me where it's like, you're Indonesian, but we're now living, and now that same subject, I don't know, maybe it's there's a thin line between you and I, but that there's that subject. I was born here, but I was raised there. So am I Indonesian?
And
am I
something tricky with you? I think is culture. It's in you. It's in people, right?
Right.
Like for as much as. In a sense, we're similar. We're children of immigrants growing up in the U.S. In your case, you weren't born in the U.S. But had you been naturalized and become American, we would be the same. It's like children of immigrants.
Right.
You didn't remember your time in Indonesia as a kid,
no.
as a baby.
I left when I was 2.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you and I would have been the same concept, right? Children of immigrants, American children of immigrants, and so. Because here's another thing that people often say: Americans have no culture. America has no culture. Indonesians will say that sometimes. I used to say that myself. It wasn't until I left America that I realized, wow, like how much I learned a lot about myself by leaving.
Right.
And it's not just saying like, oh, hamburgers,
Right.
People make that joke, and it's a good
Joes.
It's a good joke, and I get it. America's fun to make fun of because whatever.
Every country's it's fun to make fun of it when it's funny.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
But like hip hop culture, that is so American. Like most music is American. Jazz, blues, a lot of the black music, not just recent black music, like going back, jazz and blues is like amazing. This is all American, right? And bluegrass, bluegrass isn't black, but that's also very American. Then again, it probably has its roots from like, I don't know, Scottish, Irish stuff. But anyway, I don't know. Anyway, point being, like, the culture's in you. Like I didn't realize how American I was until I left, and then how much Cuban that I am. Not nearly as much as my mother, I'm sure. Right. But it's funny how the culture it's in you. And so I guess it's hard to say when is enough assimilation. Right. As long as the person makes an effort, I think that's probably enough.
No, that's I think that's what most people, if they're looking for it, I think that's what most people are looking for. They can definitely appreciate it. You know what I mean? It's always a good, just a good vibe that you get when, oh shit, dude is talking in Indonesian. So that's a hard thing to kind of, put a metric on. I think there's, that one experience I had with the dude at the restaurant. Dude was here for 10 years and he married an Indonesian. So I don't know who's in the wrong in that sense, right? But going back to her, that's really tricky because I don't know, we don't know what's in her headspace. Yeah. We didn't know any plans that she had. Maybe she did write it out. I'm not up to speed on that. Yeah. But here's another thing. I don't know for the ones obviously that didn't watch the Indonesian part, but going back to culture and language, a lot of people jump the gun, man, and talking about how culture is ingrained. If we're not open to our own culture and not open to other people's culture, it causes so much rift, dude. And saying in English to the ones that didn't catch that in the first half was that it really blew up and people were calling Indonesians. Now, don't get me wrong. Were there other Indonesian bots and trolls? I'm pretty sure there were. On the same side that there's probably a lot of the ones that are quote unquote defending her, whether they were bots and whether they were trolls as well. But I have this thing where it's just like, you can't fight racism with racism. It just sounds stupid. Yeah. But before that was, they were disagreeing with her. A lot of the Indonesian people were disagreeing with her as they have that opinion. They have absolutely every opinion to disagree with her. But when they would write no in Indonesian for the English speakers, there's a hierarchy in the language where it's not prevalent in English, right? There's a hierarchy. And the same thing with English, you can shorten, you can have slang, right? A lot of people are aware of most English slang. When someone says something as old school, yo, that shit was bad, you'll probably assume that was really good. It's the total opposite, right? We have that in Indonesian too. And we also have, we like to shorten words in the same sense that some people are too lazy to say, what the fuck? They'll say WTF or LOL. They won't say shit. They'll shorten things out. Sure. Same thing with Indonesian. And when the Indonesian people started saying no, they didn't say the formal way of saying no in tidak, T-I-D-A-K. They said enggak. And some people, they spell it a certain way. They'll spell it NGA or NGGA because there's the nga, and then there's the NGGAK. A lot of on that side of the fence saw that as like, oh, you're being racist now. Right. Because it alluded to the N-word, right? But it wasn't. Now, again, when you start jumping the gun, you're not really learning the culture or what's behind the context of everything.
Right. And now these could have very well been people in the US assuming racism.
Oh,
and so maybe they don't need to actually learn about Indonesian culture. But then this goes back to the final point I made in the Indonesian section about when we have these debates and arguments online and stuff, we need to be more patient, more open-minded, and not quick to make judgments.
Exactly. And that's, again, what I tried to express in the Indonesian part too was that maybe that was my shortcoming. Because, again, I go on social media when I want to. I am perfectly fine without not posting anything. I'm very proud of being that lurker. And to what I wanted to say is that it's a difficult subject, and you can go hours and have theories on talking about everything. But at the end of the day, if you're not open, if you're quick to pull that trigger, do you know what I mean? Have these opinions without learning the context. People are going to watch this video and they're going to say shit. I know they are.
Right.
But it's like, wait, did you watch the entire video?
And now here, look, I'll finish with this. Well, let's finish with this. So one challenge about this podcast I've been doing now for, you were technically in the first one. You were the second one we posted, but, so you were the first one, and now this one. Right. Who knows? It could be the last one. We could be canceled. But so back then, I did Spanish. I didn't do Spanish at all. Indonesian and English in one episode, right? But the episodes were kind of long, and I didn't think people were watching the full episodes of 1 hour podcast. Or listening, I should say. So I started cutting them in half for the past 3 or 4. Now we have. Bahasa one video, Bahasa Indonesia one video, and English one video, and the only challenge there is here we may have cleared up some things in the Indonesian section, which if it were one video, that would be a benefit. We could tell people it's called 50/50 podcast. You're gonna have to listen to the whole thing, and half of it's in English. We cleared that up. We covered that in the English section. So, at least I'm saying this, and now it's on record. There's a lot more to this that we've just added in the English section, which reflects on what we said in Indonesian. Right. And in the Indonesian section, we've got 2 people who, me, it's definitely not my native language, and then. For you, I think expressing yourself in Indonesian.
It's a secondary language, man. And here's another thing. It's not something that I'm bragging about. I can't change that. I can't change the fact that I was raised there and I learned Indonesian when I came back to Indonesia. Do you know what I mean? So it is hard to express myself. And so I think in general, apart from that is, I've seen comments on other people's podcasts or in general, and I think it's a general state of things. Going back to your point of, don't jump the gun. Right. Don't pull that trigger.
Exactly.
If you're not watching the entire video and you don't understand the context, anything can be used. I'm pretty sure Kamal can find bits of what I said or what you said in that Indonesian part. It's like clickbait right there, right? And it's just, do you know what I mean? But, if you're going to get triggered by shit like that without actually understanding the full context of what they're actually talking about,
right?
You know what I mean? It doesn't really help your,
Right.
And that was my whole thing at the beginning too, is I was aware of this subject. I feel both sides, man. Do you know what I mean? As someone that was raised in the States, as someone that lives here and who is Indonesian, but I feel both sides.
And I think that's how we move forward as a society, is when you can find positive you can find truth and positive sides to your opposing to your opposition, right? Actually my opposition has a point on this and on this and on this. Maybe they're just going about it the wrong way on that,
right?
And that's how we move forward as a society. Right. And so at least this can be it's in the English section, and so it won't be in that other video, but I think they're connected. This is called 50/50 podcast, and those two, part 1 and part 2, it is called part 1 and part 2, right? Okay, you can't judge
bagian satu and part 2. I don't know.
Exactly, yeah. But you can't judge Matrix without Matrix Reloaded. Okay, this part 2 there, it's one story. Right. So at least that's our defense.
Right.
If anyone wants to take it to that.
Yeah. No, again, man, like I feel for her, but at the same time, I get why. Could things be handled differently on any party? Probably. Again, I don't work for the government. I'm not the ones making these regulations. Look, you should be fighting for it. That's a different story in itself. But the fact of the matter is that we can all learn from the situation, you know, and hopefully take something positive out from it, right? I just don't believe that in certain situations you should be fighting something negative with something negative.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Who am I to say, man?
All right. Let's just cut it off there.
All right. Let's go get some lunch. I'm hungry.
Yeah. I'm hungry. Let's go eat. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.